Hi everybody, it's Martin from the Washboard Resonators. So we're just filming what's like a little 15-minute bit now while they're doing the changeover for the Lockdown TV festival, making sure that all the internet connections are right so we can go live. We didn't know what to fill our 15 minutes with, but we decided to ask our fans on Facebook and Instagram, ask any questions that you might want, and we've got a massive list of questions. Mr. Jack, would you like to start with the first question?
Am I starting?
Yeah, pick a question.
Yeah, so, a good friend of ours, Sam Jackson, has asked who's got the biggest collection of instruments, because we both collect old stuff. And yeah, if we went in individual drums, I've probably got more than you've got individual guitars, but you've got more guitars than I've got kits, I'd probably say. I think I've got I've got 7 kits, and then various snare drums dating from the 20s or pre-20s to the 60s, mid-60s probably.
How many snare drums?
I don't know, I haven't counted.
15? 20?
15?
Something like that, isn't it? I'm up to about 30 kind of guitars and banjos and stuff like that.
And basses.
Basses, yeah. Some sort of quite a few 30s resonator guitars, because that's our thing, the Washboard Resonators. So I got one of the first 250 bass guitars ever made, a 50s Fender bass. That's really nice. It's a bit of basically it's a bit of a problem for us, isn't it? I think that's why our friend Sam Jackson asked the question, because I think our Instagrams can be filled with a lot of...
So it's a bit of a competition, isn't it? If someone buys something, the other person wants to buy something. Well,
yeah,
back when we had money anyway.
Yeah, back before COVID, when we could afford to buy stuff. Yeah, I could go months without really fancying buying some kind of instrument, and then you'd buy a new snare drum, and then suddenly I just feel a little bit, I don't know, left out. So then next thing you know, you're sort of driving down the motorway to buy a guitar somewhere. So I don't know. Yeah, I think in terms of volume, it's probably yours because of the drum kits take up so much space. In terms of value,
Yours,
I think
probably.
mine's probably worth a bit more. But it's just fun, isn't it? And it's a bit like, there's a lot of time spent waiting to play gigs where eBay on your phone is a problem. That's definitely for sure. A question from somebody who is one of our sort of, I think, bestest supporters, is a lady called Donna Cairns from Newcastle. She's a ukulele player. She asks a few questions, but they all kind of link together. How did we meet, and did we like old blues and jazz when we started playing instruments at the start, when we started playing? 2 good questions. Do you want to say how we met, or shall I?
Yeah, well, so we met in it's like Leeds Jazz Club on the outskirts of Leeds. They run a Tuesday trad night. Well, you were going for longer than me, weren't you?
Yeah, it's in Leeds Jazz Club, is in Armley Conservative Club, and it's kind of near.
You don't need to know that, but that's fine.
I'm setting the scene. It's where yeah, and it's I've been working as a professional musician now for a long time, and so I've been gigging all over the country at the weekend. But on a Tuesday night, near to my house, there was Dixieland, trad, 20s, 30s, New Orleans jazz bands playing every Tuesday night, and the beers were about £1.50 a beer. So I used to go down there. That was my weekend, and I was going for a long time. And then, some pals came, and I'd seen Jack around playing in Leeds, busking on the street, and I recognised him. And basically, everybody that goes to that club were people that were into the trad jazz boom of the 1950s. So you can probably imagine that pretty much everybody is in their probably late 60s plus, a lot of 70, 80
We were the only people without grey hair, basically.
Yeah, basically, we don't dye, but we had our hair colour, and we're like, right, yeah, let's talk. And then, so on the first night that I saw Jack there, we got chatting, and we were both running our bands. And basically, we decided, I think we both like the idea of trying to run a band that did good work and was professional and successful. And so by the end of the night, we were like, right, let's see if we're as good as our word, and let's have a go at it. So we started working together, and that was 7, 8 years ago, maybe. Something like that.
7 years ago.
Something like that. And yeah, I mean, probably do, since then we've probably done 120, 130 gigs a year together in different acts, and then we do other bands as well. So that's how we first met. And did we like old blues and jazz when we started? Now, I didn't, but you kind of did.
Yeah, I mean, I was into like 30s big band. I always liked from when I was younger. I always liked Gene Krupa when I was younger, and any, I think there's a lot of primal instinct in people. Everyone likes like jungle drums, isn't it? My drum teacher when I was younger telling you, if you do drum solos, you start something off with jungle drums kind of thing, and it gets the general public. He didn't say it in those terms, but I understand now he's saying like that's what people like. Most people don't like drum solos unless you play a drum solo like that. And I guess I liked that when I was younger as well. I thought that's for the people, and
So that's pretty cool. So you as a youth, you heard big band music and you were like, that's really cool. So when you started doing your drum lessons, that all kind of linked together in what you're doing. And you played in school big band. Is that fair?
Yeah, I did everything: orchestras, wind bands, everything. We had choirs in Wales, obviously.
So big band music is kind of like
Yeah, it was
swing,
that was,
if you like.
That was my, and then into like early rock and roll and stuff as well. It's all influenced from the same. That was my way in, really, and then looking backwards and slightly forwards from that.
Yeah, that's cool. I started trumpet when I was 9. I was into like brass band music, or I liked the sound of brass band music, still do. But then I didn't really stick with it. And then when I was 12, I took up bass guitar. I was playing, kind of like rock and roll stuff. And my dad started playing keyboard when he was in his 40s, so we'd play along with like old rock and roll songs and stuff. And then you sort of, when you're 14, you join like heavy rock blues bands that are playing like Hendrix and Beatles kind of music and stuff, and Black Sabbath. And then I kept reading interviews with like all my heroes like Jimmy Page or Eric Clapton, and they're always talking about Leadbelly or Big Bill Broonzy or Robert Johnson. So as you get to like 14, 15, 16, you have a bit of spending money. I just go to the record shops and buy records with those people's names on, and then take them home and listen to them, thinking, I'm going to get something of what they've got in their playing. Like, instead of copying a guy who's done some copying, go to the source. And actually finding myself loving that music, and basically mostly listening to kind of old blues and jazz over time, but playing bass guitar in heavy rock bands and through my 20s. I was only really 24, 25 when I started playing guitar, and actually started playing this kind of blues and ragtime and swing music and learning it to back up an ex of mine. So it's it was always there, but it was kind of found through a different kind of route. Do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
I'm timing this because we've got up to 15 minutes.
Oh yeah, Mark in Wales is in Brecon. He says a good one. What musicians from any time would you like to have a jam with?
That's a good question. Can we answer that?
Yeah, you go. I've asked you.
Yeah, cool. I think if I could go to any time, I have 2 sort of favourite performers of the 1930s that are probably the biggest influence on what I do. One is a guy called Tampa Red, who played a resonator guitar, played like bottleneck slide guitar. He's a great musician, studio musician, but also did some very funny songs. And then a guy called Blind Boy Fuller, another resonator guitar player, more of a kind of he had a kind of a way of playing blues guitar, a bit like a pianist. He had like more like piano lines in his guitar playing. I mean, either of those 2 would be great. And as I started as a bass guitar player and then double bass, I'd love to just, play a bit of like slap double bass behind those guys. That would just be amazing, just to let them do their thing and just be part of it. That would be amazing. But
mine are probably there's two concerts that like live concerts I listen to a lot. I think it would be great to. I'd kind of like just be in the audience, but if you could.
So it's not really jamming. You just like to be at that room.
Yeah, I mean same thing. Or you just feel you'd play into the drums, I guess. But there's the 1938 Carnegie Hall, Benny Goodman and Gene Krupa concert there. That's an amazing recording of that. And I like the Louis Prima and the Live of the Sahara. It's like I think that's early 50s in Las Vegas. It's a recording of one of their 45-minute sets, like 3 in the morning. So it's like I like the atmosphere in those rooms are amazing. I'd like to be a part of that, whether watching or playing.
That's cool. So okay, that's cool. That's a great question from Mark. Let me find another question. Here we go. So Rob Tallis in Wales, who's a great supporter. In fact, we just booked a private party with him today. Actually, he sent a message. Is it easy as a pair to come up with new songs? What do you think?
No, not really. Well, it depends.
It is and it isn't.
When we're coming up with when we write something together, it's relatively all right. It's like it takes a long time.
It takes a long time if we're working together to write.
And then otherwise, it's like, yeah, I prefer arranging the songs to actually writing them. I've written a couple, but I don't really like it. So I like it when you bring in a song and I can arrange.
There we go.
Do it like that, and then even that's a longer process. So I don't know. No, it's not easy, but I think when we work on stuff,
it's not hard.
Together.
It takes a long time sometimes.
Yeah, it's just time consuming is what it is, and then you've got to talk about depends who's really strong on an idea or not, and see which is the most important you take it through.
It's the problem with democracy, if you like, because everybody's got to have a say. So we can sometimes go through ideas for a song, which song we're even going to work on, and even that's a bit of a to and fro. Well, I like it, I don't like it. I'll tell you what, I'll give you this one. And then we might work on ideas. I don't like that idea. Well, please let me try this idea. And we try the idea. And then sometimes we you go through all this process of like giving the other guy a chance. And sometimes you've got to really let go of things you really believe in, but that's okay because the bigger picture. And then sometimes you've got to go out and do the song or do the ideas. And sometimes we've done it before. We've put all these ideas into a song. Then we've gone out and gone, do you know what?
It doesn't work.
It's too much. Or do you know what? We need to put more in. This song's a bit boring. We need to maybe take it some other places, change the textures. With two people, that sing high, play basically metal instruments. Texture and dynamics are very important, and it's how you and rhythmical devices are very important. So that can take a long time. And also, Jack's got some very clever ideas that sometimes take me quite a while to figure out. So it's just time. But it's just time. It's not really like.
Yeah, I guess it is.
I think his question was: is it easy?
It's not really hard. It's just very, very time consuming.
Yeah, and it's not like we're thrashing songs out. I
don't think you can. I think
we're about to play some songs now on this concert for Lockdown TV, and you probably wouldn't. They're not just thrashed out. There's a lot of ideas, a lot of like little bits that go into them that are quite well. They're meant to be quite tight because of COVID. We've not been playing so many. We've not really been playing, so hopefully it'll be tight. Next question, because we're gibbering like fools. I think it's your turn.
Should we do another one of Sam's?
We've got 1 minute 38 until we have to start shutting down. But if you're going to watch this, we might put this out on YouTube, so we might carry a little bit longer after the 15 minutes and put it up on YouTube later. We'll see.
Okay, we need a quick one then, don't we?
A couple of quick ones. Quick fire, because we've been gibbering like fools.
Just one quick one, I think. The two quick ones, yeah. So I couldn't read your writing. I'll put it again. But what's the oldest song in our repertoire?
The oldest
one
song.
Of the covers.
The oldest song in our repertoire, yeah.
Probably a folk one that you brought in.
I'm trying to think. We do. John Henry is an old American folk song about. Let me grab that. Laying railway tracks. I think that's 1860s, according to my book of American train folk songs. 1860s, 1870s. There's the other one, Cripple Creek, which is a banjo tune that we do, which is kind of based on a Scottish folk song, but it's kind of a version that was picked out of Virginia. Cripple Creek. I think that's probably got its roots probably in the 18th century in Scotland, but it's kind of like being Americanized probably through the 1900s.
Very last one.
Last question. What's the future of live music now? It asks Rob.
I thought you wanted a quick question.
Is it a quick question?
All right, you answer it.
All right, okay. Future of live music. I think probably more of this kind of online stuff. I think it's going to be difficult. I think fewer people are going to go out to gigs than they used to do because they've got in the habit of staying at home. But I also think the people that are looking for it are really going to want it. And I also think there's going to be a certain. Whoa. We've got about 1 minute. I think it's going to be a long, slow route back to kind of trying to build society, to work like it worked before. It'll be different. I think it'll always be different. I think we do some sort of weddings and parties, and people. In fact, I spoke to a couple on the phone yesterday, and I think people are really looking forward to like getting together and doing family stuff. Maybe next year now, when maybe things are safer. So I think there's people looking forward to like doing stuff. But I think we'll also lose people that just got into the habit of staying home and drinking.
Okay.
That's what I think. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't have time to put my opinion through. That's fine.
There we go then. Right. 15 minutes is up. So thank you very much, everybody. We're going to go and do the concert sometime soon. If you're still here, you're watching this on our YouTube channel in a few weeks. Should we answer a few more questions and then we'll call this a do? Getting weird looks from the neighbours.
Yeah, I think it's your mother asked.
My mother hasn't asked a question. Has she?
I thought it says Jacqueline Beanie. There you go, that man.
Just, I see what you're saying, because Beanie was my nickname as a child, and then Jacqueline. No, that's not a connection. It's just
well,
and it's a great name.
She's asked what age you learned to play your first instrument.
Oh, that's a good question. I think I said earlier. I did trumpet for a bit when I was 9, and then I took up bass guitar at 12. What about yourself?
When you asked your first instrument. Yeah, I would say I played trumpet. I think loads of people sound on trumpet, especially boys. I think 'cause it's a big, loud instrument. Unfortunately,
it's a cool instrument. It's a cool sound.
Yeah, I was younger. Actually, I was 7. But
7?
Yeah, 7. But I continued. I started drums at 10. Then I continued trumpet till I was about 14. But
I did not know that.
Yeah, I got my grade 5.
You got your grade 5 in trumpet?
And theory.
That explains so much.
But I'll say a side story then. I've not told this before.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, we've got the time.
I was practicing. I was playing drums as well. I started drums at 10, but then we were actually playing all the brass bands. Loads of brass bands and wind bands in Wales of various levels. So the school, county, 3 counties, and national. But then and I was playing in the county one, and the drummer didn't turn up for the rehearsals. My teacher knew I played drums, so I just shoved on drum kit. But it was like a brilliant and scary experience, because it's like you have, what I didn't realise is on drums you're very loud, and you have to kind of be confident, and you have to be right, because there's a sea of trumpets. At the time, you're all 3 of you on second trumpet. If one of you plays it wrong, no one notices. If you play it wrong on drums, everyone notices. So it was a big learning curve from that.
It's something I've noticed when even recently, just before COVID, when you were playing in the big band at Army Conservative, how you'd set, how you realise how the drums set up the sections.
Yeah, it's like drums are one of the only. You have to be right. There's no hiding.
There's bits where you kind of like, the trumpets take a section, and then you're like ka-doo, and then this other section comes in. It's like you're the guy that's actually like framing that.
I think that's with drums. All the drums, even in pop music, we were talking about that, because you have to, even though everyone knows it's an 8-bar section, but your fill comes at the end of the 8 bars, because it's just that's the collective know that we're definitely moving on.
We're definitely in that
like subconscious,
and
it comes with the instrument. I don't think you can't really play drums live and not have those responsibilities.
I think when I saw you playing the big band, you had Sam Jackson on the bass. He was playing bass with you, and he said there's quite a few questions actually. So I'll ask a question from Sam. Which is better, Yorkshire or Wales? Yorkshire or Wales? Which is better?
Wales, obviously. It's its own country.
It's
not just a county.
It's something that we've discussed at length, driving up and down the country at 3 a.m, trying to span time. I think we're both very proud of where we come from, and they're weirdly similar, aren't they? I think that's fair to say.
Almost if we wrote a song about it.
We did write a song about it.
It's very subject.
The sun always shines in Yorkshire, and the sun always shines in Wales, but the parts of Yorkshire and Wales that we both come from are very similar. It's basically the hill country, it's mining country, maybe more mills exactly where I am, but there were mines nearby. But it's where brass bands and male voice choirs were traditionally the main forms of one of the main forms of sort of hobbies and stuff. And it was often in London, a lot of the brass band and male voice choir competitions were basically between bands out of the South Wales valleys where Jack's from, or the Pennine Hills where I'm from. And I definitely feel like when I go to where I'm from at Huddersfield, or where you are, you still get a sense there's all those kind of non-denominational churches around, and spaces for brass bands and male voice choirs to sing stuff. It just feels like it's still sort of in the DNA, even if people don't listen to brass band now.
Oh, it's not, yeah, but I think it's still big competitions. There's still
massive competitions.
Yeah. I used to in Wales, and I've done a few. I did the West Yorkshire Police Band.
You did, yeah.
But I think it's still a big part. And singing, I know a lot more singing in Wales than I do in Yorkshire. I'm not sure what the singing tradition is, but there's still a big part. It's just not as, it's maybe not as synonymous with the country or counties as it was in the past.
That's true. Yeah, I've been reading
in the areas.
I've been reading a book recently, which is a history of the Huddersfield where I'm from, the 1860s, 70s, 80s, and the guy, it's his diaries, and he's talking about these May Day feasts and ceremonies, and how there was brass bands and everybody joined singing along. And a couple of times in this book he talks about everybody sang Handel's Messiah, and you think maybe it isn't as mainstream. Maybe everyone now is singing, I don't know, people there's a pub band in a car park singing Sex on Fire, but people are coming together to sing the song and to join in and stuff. And I think there's something in the DNA in both those areas that we're from where there's a participation and I think people worked hard, but played hard.
So Wales is best anyway.
They're both fantastic, aren't they, in their own ways? But I mean, that's not really answering the question, is it? They're but interesting as well. Both the area I come from was renowned for people having carnal relations with sheep, as is the stereotype of the part that you're from. So that's another thing that we share, is that we're both from lands where people accuse you of wearing wellies with Velcro on. Next question. And on that note.
From Rob, how do we organise time between solo and other acts?
That's a good question. That's a great question, actually, Rob. So we both, as I said earlier, I think you've got the record. I think you played. Was it 238 gigs in 1 year?
No, it's more than that. We've averaged more than that last year.
I always have this figure in my head, and maybe
I can't. Yeah.
Was it 245?
I did
a figure
2 years ago, or whatever it was.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, or just last financial year, 248.
248, not 38. 48.
But I thought we've done. I'm not sure that's the record.
I've done about 200. I think 240. A mere 214 in here was my record. But so the thing is, you play that many gigs. It's a lot of gigs, and so the Washboard Resonators. You know, I think a typical year is probably 120, 130, maybe 140 gigs, depending on the year and what the touring schedule is. So we have to make a living. You have to have like other acts. I have Lead City Stompers, and I do like a solo one-man band thing. Kind of thing. But then you also have to be like available to dep and to play in other bands and stuff, which I know you do quite a lot of, like, you know, just literally reading charts sometimes.
Yeah,
and stuff,
it's all changed a bit now than it was. Yeah, I had other. Yeah, we just got have a good diary.
There's an online system.
So you have to, when gigs come in or we book gigs, and make sure the other person's free. Every now and then it messes up, doesn't it? But it's a pretty good system, and I have that online diary. I have a physical diary. I have a wall chart. So I've got 3 ways of where gigs get put in. So it's pretty quick. I don't normally get double booked.
No, that's right.
Quick on it. And
it's kind of like you have to sort of be preemptive. So you until recently played in Howlin' Rick and the Rocketeers, a rock and roll band. Now that's a band that plays originals and wants to tour and, you know, create a fan base, a bit like we do, just going around kind of like playing and hoping that people like us and come back. So to book tours, what we have to do is like say, right, you have to sort of think almost like a year ahead, or maybe more sometimes. You have to like book, right, this 3 weeks is a Washboard Resonator slot, and then you have to book a week or 2 off, so Jack or, you know, me, wherever we get time, and then you'd have to book like a, you know, say a Rick slot, and then it's down to like the band to fill that 3 weeks, say, with dates, and then, you know, I'm certainly the way I kind of do it is if we go in, we tour, I'll try for at least a couple of weeks afterwards to try and minimise the gigs. So I'll try not to take any gigs, say Monday to Thursday, just take Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just so that you've got time at home. Because sometimes you just need to catch up on work and emails and sleep, shopping, you know, try and not do any rehearsals on those days. So it's a bit like that kind of management, but you always feel, probably as like any self-employed person, you probably always feel like you could do more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is just one way we do it, but I don't think this is, you know, only applies to music. I think most self-employed people have the same issue.
Definitely.
If you work with other people, there's diary clashes and there's times.
Yeah, and then there's times. So there's times where we've had times where, like, you know, we've taken. It works both ways, but there's times where we've been offered crazy good paying, amazing gigs, and we couldn't take them because one of us was booked elsewhere. And then sometimes it works the other way. You know, like sometimes, you know, we have the crazy good paying gig, and then somebody else can't. You know, one of the other bands can't play. And I know it's
always the nature of it as well, whether to take the money on some gigs or take the experience or the things.
Yeah, it's a difficult call sometimes.
Those two.
I mean, basically, we kind of work a thing that if it's like, say, a wedding or a party, it's immovable. And I think I can honestly say in the last, say, 7 or 8 years, I can't think of a time when we haven't moved one or got rid of one or anything. Some people have let us down, which is a different story, but like
I can think of the birth of your son, perhaps.
Well,
that's pretty exceptional.
Yes, that's a very good point actually. Yeah, there was one time I forgot about that. I moved all the gigs for basically 3 weeks.
You don't need to go into
with a centre where my son was going to be born, but there was one which was like, we'll keep that one because would you keep that one? And it just so happened that out of all the gigs that had gone, I basically didn't work for 3 weeks. There was like, I left one, and then it was that day.
A little bugger arrived on that day.
Yeah, we arrived on that day, and it was just like, well, if we keep that one, that one gig will keep me afloat for that 3 weeks. And a flipping selfish little thing. So then I had this wonderful situation when it was obvious what was going to happen. Then the night before, I'm trying to find bands that can fill in. Wasn't
Anyway.
fun.
Does do one more?
Yeah, let's do one more question, and then we'll stop.
Is it your turn or my
I
turn?
think it's my turn.
Sorry.
Should I find a question? Let me see what we've got here. Oh, this is a great question from Rob Tallis, actually. As a newcomer to your music and then the kind of era that you do, who should we as fans listen to? That, you know, the kind of acts that maybe inspire you from the 20s or 30s, or the kind of acts that are around now doing like what we do, where we kind of, you know, we do like a 20s or 30s kind of thing, but with our own kind of material. I think that's a great question. So, if you're newcomer to this kind of era, then I said Blind Boy Fuller and Tampa Red earlier. I'll repeat that. I think they're very important in my guitar playing.
I think it's tricky that if it sounds very cliche, but like there are, I don't think there's many other bands like us, because
No.
like the way there's a lot of people that have a similar lineups, you have similar ideas, and you all borrow from each other, and you think, oh, I liked how that band did that, we could use a bit of that and do that. So that's how the world goes around. Everyone uses stuff, but we try and present it in a certain way. Or I think we've got a bit more vaudeville, or like I don't know if entertainment's the word, but like we like to try and I think of it as when people come in and buy a ticket, you try and really take them back in time. And this kind of old. I like the people like Louis Prima said, I like the old style comedic musicians, but it has to be done. They have to play well as well. I don't like it when. Well, it depends. There's comedians that play songs on guitar, and it doesn't like one of their things is on guitar, and their guitar playing is not important. Then, but
yeah, there's lots of people that do that.
You have to. I think I don't like it when you hear. I don't like it when you have people that are doing comedy songs, but the music's terrible.
We ultimately are like a 20s 30s band, and we play, you know, blues, ragtime, swing. Hokum is really what we do. Hokum is a genre that was big in the 30s, which was like blues and jazz bands doing slightly risque material, which was influenced by, in Britain, music hall, or in America you might call it like burlesque or cabaret. So Hokum is really what we do, but there's all kinds of things within that.
But ours, it's like we're mixing on things, because we've got some like rock, there's some rock and roll DNA, some jump drive stuff. There's obviously swing, there's pre-swing, ragtime, and
there's lots of genres within it. But it's ultimately we started off just playing traditional. I had a whole set of 20s and 30s like blues songs basically, and we started off just literally, we never practiced. The first time we went out playing, literally I just had this set of material I played, and then Jack came along with a washboard he bought that week, and we just started playing and making it as we went along. And so it's definitely, we started as a music thing, but now on stage we have routines, we have routines, we have bits for the audience to join in, we have tap dancing routines, we have, you know, we take from like old Hollywood films, Fred Astaire, comedians, Max Miller, George Formby, you know, we take from all these kind of things, just old-fashioned vaudeville kind of circus kind of things to make it so it's not just music, it's more than that. And I think, to try and answer Rob's question, because I don't think I'm doing a very good job of it, but if you go back to the 20s and 30s, a lot of, or even beyond, a lot of the greatest kind of musicians are also great entertainers, and that doesn't mean that they have to sell out or anything. Louis Armstrong invented a lot of the DNA of like 20s and 30s jazz, especially with his Hot 5 and Hot 7 recordings, which are amazing, so check out the Hot 5 recordings. But on stage there's nobody better, I think, or barely anybody better, that can put a song across, to really get into the song and sell the song. Is that fair to say? Yeah. If you're looking at bands now, then there's a guy going around called Pokey Lafarge, there's a guy called C.W. Stone King. Both of those guys have played like on Jules Holland's show. We've seen them in Leeds. They'll probably sell 400 tickets a night, 500 tickets a night. They're doing it at a certain level, and they're amazing, and they're doing like a 20s, 30s thing. Going back to the olden days, like Louis Armstrong's good, Tampa Red, Blind Boy Fuller, Robert Johnson, Big Bill Broodzy, they're all influenced in what we do. Washboard Rhythm Kings are an amazing band. Go to YouTube, Washboard Rhythm Kings. There's an amazing
that
black
jug
and
band
white
stuff's
film
cool,
of
isn't
those
it?
guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Jug band music, the Memphis Jug Band, Mississippi Sheiks, Gus Cannon and his Jug Stompers. We love jug band music, which is very much in that hokum kind of thing, a lot of homemade stuff.
Yeah, for me, it's earlier
Swing.
jazz stuff and earlier
Be-
big band stuff.
Benny Goodman.
Gene Krupa, Lionel Hampton, and
Lionel
Louis
Hampton,
Prima,
Louis
Louis Jordan.
Louis Jordan's
some good,
amazing.
Smack Henderson, what's his real name?
Fletcher
Henderson.
Fletcher Henderson, yeah.
Yeah, you can look these guys up really, but we're a mix of all these kind of things.
So
really.
there's a load of places to start. So it just, I think, sounds like the plumber's here to do some changing. So we're going to have to stop now, stop gibbering. So thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you've made it this far, you are crazy. Yeah, congratulations. I'm surprised we made it this far. See you later.
See you soon.